I hadn't been back to Windmere Hill in 7 years. The road was narrower than I remembered, two thin ribbons of cracked asphalt curling through a forest that seemed to lean closer with every mile. My phone had lost signal 10 minutes ago, and the GPS had frozen with the little blue spinning in place, like it was trying to warn me. I was going to see Mara and Tessa, my college friends, my once inseparable trio. We'd lived together for 3 chaotic years in a dorm room that always smelled faintly of coffee and panic. Then life had scattered us apart. So when Mara's text came, "Weekend at my new place? You'll love it." I said yes before hesitation could whisper otherwise. The house appeared suddenly, a shadow between the trees. It wasn't what I expected. I thought new place meant modern, cozy, maybe a cottage. Instead, it was an old manor, stone walls streaked with moss, windows like blank eyes. A balcony sagged under the weight of ivy, and a single light flickered weakly behind one of the upstairs curtains. I parked and sat for a moment listening. The forest was utterly still. No wind, no birds. Even the air felt thick, like sound itself refused to move here. Then I saw it. In the second-story window, the curtain shifted. A shape stood there, a woman, pale and still, watching me. I smiled automatically, assuming it was Mara. I waved. The figure didn't move. And then the light went out and I stepped out of the car, crunching gravel underfoot. The air smelled faintly of rain and something older, like the scent of pages left too long in a closed attic. My bag felt heavier than it should have as I walked up the path, its stones slick with moss. The front door was half open. Not wide, just a crack, enough to suggest someone had been watching for me. "Mara?" I called, forcing brightness into my voice. "Tessa? You two better not be planning some dramatic reunion prank." No answer. Only the creak of a loose shutter swinging somewhere above me. I pushed the door open with my fingertips. It groaned like it hadn't been moved in years. Inside, the air was cooler, damp. The entryway stretched into shadow, lit by a single chandelier whose crystals swayed gently, though there was no breeze. My heels clicked softly on the old wooden floor as I stepped in. The house smelled faintly of lavender, Mara's favorite scent, but beneath it was something metallic, faintly sour. "Hello." Something moved at the top of the stairs, a flicker of motion too quick to see clearly. I froze. Then footsteps. Slow. Descending. Relief flooded me. "There you are." You scared me for a sec. But as the figure came into view, my relief drained away. It wasn't Mara. It wasn't Tessa. It was a woman I'd never seen before, dressed in a faded gray gown, her face pale as paper, eyes sunken yet glinting faintly in the dim light. And when she smiled at me, her teeth were too many. I took a step back, my hand instinctively reaching for the door, only to realize it had silently closed behind me. The woman didn't speak. She simply stood at the base of the stairs, head tilted, smile fixed. The longer I looked, the less human it seemed, too still, too deliberate, as though someone had painted that expression on and forgotten to let it dry. I tried to keep my voice steady. I think I'm at the wrong house." Her eyes flickered. Just once, a small shift that felt like a laugh I couldn't hear. Then she turned, gliding soundlessly toward the hallway on the left. Something about her movement made my skin prickle. There was no sound, no footstep, no fabric rustle, just the faint swaying of her gray skirt, like she was floating an inch above the floor. I should have left then. Every sensible thought screamed it. But a voice echoed softly from deeper in the house. Familiar, warm. "Ellie? You made it." "Mara." I nearly collapsed with relief. "Mara? Oh, thank God. Your housekeeper just gave me the worst." But when I turned back toward the stairs, the woman in gray was gone. Not up the steps. Not down the hall. Gone, as if she dissolved into the shadows. Mara appeared moments later, all bright eyes and curls, waving from the kitchen doorway like nothing was wrong. "Come on in. Tessa's in the sitting room. You have to see what she found." I wanted to ask about the woman, but something in Mara's tone made me hesitate. Because she was smiling too, and for a heartbeat, It looked exactly like the other woman smiled. Mara's hug was warm, but fleeting, like she wasn't sure how long to hold on. Her perfume was lavender, the same scent that had lingered in the entryway, only sharper now, almost choking. "Tessa's been waiting for you," she said, her eyes flicking briefly toward the hallway. "We've been getting things ready." "Things?" I asked. She smiled again, the expression too practiced. "You'll see." The hallway led to a long room lined with mirrors. Dozens of them, tall, antique things with tarnished edges and warped glass that bent the reflections like funhouse images. Some leaned against the walls, others hung crookedly, all reflecting candlelight that shimmered from unseen sources. And there was Tessa, kneeling on the floor, tracing something on the wooden planks with a stick of white chalk. When she looked up, her face broke into a grin. "Ellie!" Finally, she stood and brushed her hands against her jeans, leaving pale dust on her thighs. "You have no idea how hard it was to get this place ready." "What is this place?" I asked, looking around. My voice bounced strangely in the mirrored room, like it was coming from 3 directions at once. "Windmere House," Mara said softly behind me. "Inherited. Old. We thought we'd make it our little project. Bring back the old magic." "Magic?" I laughed, uneasy. "Please tell me that's code for wine and gossip." Neither of them laughed. Tessa pointed to the chalk marks on the floor. They formed a circle, uneven, almost childlike, but threaded with odd symbols I didn't recognize. "It's something we found in the attic," she said. "Part of an old ritual. The lady who lived here before, she called it the calling mirror." My stomach tightened. "And you're actually trying it?" Mara nodded. "It's why we asked you to come, Ellie." "Why me?" Both women looked at each other, their reflections rippling unnaturally in the mirrors. Then softly Mara said, "Because you were the one she chose." My laugh came out thin and nervous. "Chosen? Come on, that's, what, some ghost story from the attic." But neither Mara nor Tessa laughed. The candlelight flickered harder now, the flames leaning toward the mirrors as though the glass were breathing. Tessa crouched again, her hand hovering over the chalk circle. "It's not a ghost story. There was a diary. The woman who lived here, Agnes Wren, she wrote about the reflection that remembers. She said once you call it, it doesn't forget you." The floor creaked beneath me. "And you think she chose me? Why?" Mara hesitated, eyes glinting in the half-light. "Because your name was written in the diary." For a moment, I couldn't move. "That's impossible." She walked to a small side table where an old leather-bound book sat open. I leaned over it. The pages were brittle, yellowed, covered in looping handwriting that slanted like spider legs. And there it was, halfway down the page, in faded black ink. "Ellie Hartman, offered and remembered." My heart slammed in my chest. How could my name be in something that's 100 years old? Tessa's smile twitched. "That's what we want to find out." The mirrors shivered. Not rattled, shivered, as if something had brushed them from the other side. I backed away. My reflection followed a beat too late. "Mara," I whispered. "Did you see that?" But Mara wasn't looking at me anymore. Her gaze was fixed on the mirror nearest to the floor, where the candlelight didn't quite reach. There, in the darkness, a shape was forming, an outline of a woman's face, pale and trembling, emerging from the glass like smoke. Her eyes opened. And this time, it was my face she was wearing that I stumbled backward so hard I nearly tripped over the chalk circle. My reflection, my other self, stayed perfectly still, her pale eyes locked on me through the trembling glass. Tessa gasped. "It's working. Oh my God, it's actually working." "What do you mean, working?" I snapped, my voice cracking. "That's me. What is this?" But Mara's face was alight, almost feverish. "She's responding. Look, she's listening." The reflection blinked once, slow and deliberate. Then her lips began to move, out of sync with mine. No sound came, but the words were unmistakable. "Let me in." I shook my head. "No. Nope. End this. I'm done." I turned toward the door. But it wasn't there anymore. The doorway that had led back to the hall was gone, replaced by another mirror. My reflection, no, the reflection, was there too, smiling again with that too wide mouth. Tessa was murmuring something under her breath, tracing one of the chalk symbols with trembling fingers. "We can close it if it goes wrong," she whispered. "We just have to keep control." The glass boomed. A deep, hollow sound that vibrated through the floorboards. Every mirror in the room began to tremble. The candles flared, their flames turning a sickly green. In the warped surfaces, my reflection multiplied, a dozen Ellies staring back, each one slightly off, slightly wrong. And then, one of them stepped out. Her bare foot touched the chalk circle, smudging the line. Her movements were jerky, like a puppet's, but her eyes were bright with recognition. "Thank you," she whispered in my voice. "It took so long to find you again." The air turned cold, wet basement cold, as the thing wearing my face stood before me. My breath fogged between us. Hers didn't. She looked close but not exact. Her eyes were too pale, her skin too smooth, like wax molded from memory. She tilted her head, mirroring me almost perfectly. "Almost." "Mara," I said slowly, "close the circle. Now." But Mara didn't move. Her eyes were glassy, fixed on the double. "Ellie," she breathed. "This is what Agnes meant. She's not a ghost, she's an echo. She's the part of you that was left behind." "That doesn't make any sense," I shouted. "I've never been here before." The echo smiled faintly. "Oh, but you have. You just don't remember yet." Then she stepped forward, one bare foot landing inside the chalk circle. The floorboards groaned beneath her heel, and a faint handprint appeared on the glass nearest me, even though no one had touched it. I glanced down and froze. Her footprints were facing the wrong direction. Every time she moved forward, her prints pointed backward. Tessa screamed suddenly, stumbling away from the mirrors. "Mara, the symbols are fading. It's bleeding through." The reflection, my reflection, turned her head toward Tessa. Then she smiled wider, too wide. "Don't worry," she said. "We'll make room." The mirrors began to ripple, the surfaces turning liquid, dark shapes moving beneath. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw hands pressing from inside the glass. Dozens of them, clawing to get out. And then, just as I turned to run, Mara caught my wrist. Her grip was like ice. "Don't," she whispered. "If you leave the circle, she'll follow you." My pulse thundered in my ears. The reflection, no, the echo, stood just inches away, head tilted, studying me as though she were memorizing every twitch of fear. Her eyes shimmered faintly, like candlelight beneath a thin film of water. I tried to pull my arm free, but Mara's grip only tightened. "You have to stay inside the circle," she hissed. "If you break it completely, she won't be bound to the mirrors anymore." The chalk lines were already smudged, ghostly white streaks instead of symbols. The circle looked like it was breathing. Tessa backed toward the far wall. "Mara, this isn't working. We should stop." A low hum filled the room, vibrating through the glass. The mirrors pulsed once. Twice. Then crack. A line split across the largest mirror, and a drop of something black dripped down its face. It wasn't paint. It wasn't ink. It moved, writhing slightly, like it was alive. My reflection's eyes followed the crack upward. "Almost there," she whispered. I spun on Mara. "What did you do? What did you bring me into?" Mara's eyes were full of tears. "We didn't mean to," Agnes's notes said the third voice would balance the binding. "We thought that meant safety." The echo turned toward her sharply. "It does," she said. Then she reached out and placed her hand over Mara's heart. Mara gasped. For a moment, everything froze. The air, the light, even the sound of my heartbeat. Then the mirrors flashed. Mara's reflection blinked once, then stepped backward, into the glass, while Mara herself went limp, collapsing to the floor like her strings had been cut. The echo turned to me, her voice soft, almost kind. "One left," she murmured. "Then we can be whole again." Tessa screamed and threw something, an old brass candlestick, straight at the mirror. It shattered, scattering shards across the floor. But every piece of glass still held a reflection. And each one of them was smiling. The room was filled with the sound of glass breathing, tiny sighs and crackles as the broken mirrors quivered on the floor. Each shard shimmered with its own reflection of me, dozens of little eyes that blinked out of sync. Tessa backed up until she hit the wall. "Ellie, we have to get out. Now." I nodded, though my gaze was fixed on Mara's still form. Her chest wasn't moving, but her reflection in the nearest shard was. It was smiling faintly, as if whispering a secret only the glass could hear. The echo, my mirror self, crouched beside the fallen woman. "So close," she murmured. "Two souls joined. The third opens the way. Stay away from her." I snapped, snatching up a splintered piece of mirror and pointing it like a blade. Its edge shimmered faintly, catching the green candlelight. The echo just laughed. It was my laugh, but hollow, stretched too far. "You think I'm outside, Ellie," she said. "You brought me with you when you looked too long." Behind her, the mirrors began to move again, tiny faces in every shard, turning, whispering, mimicking my expression with wrong, delayed precision. Some were grinning. Others were frowning. One looked as though it was silently screaming. Tessa grabbed my arm. "The attic," she said breathlessly. "Agnes's diary said something about the seal upstairs. It's the only way to—" She didn't finish. A shard rolled toward her foot, clinking softly against her boot. She looked down, just as her reflection inside it reached up from the glass and grabbed her ankle. Tessa shrieked, kicking wildly, but the shard's surface had turned to liquid, clinging to her skin. The reflection's hand, my hand, pulled harder, dragging her downward. I lunged forward, trying to pull her free, but my own reflection in the shard turned its head toward me and whispered, clear as breath, "Your turn." And the floor beneath us began to ripple like water. The wood beneath our feet shimmered like dark water, reflections rippling under the boards, faces and shapes that didn't quite belong to any of us. I could hear whispers now, dozens of voices murmuring my name, like a chorus that couldn't decide who should sing lead. Tessa clawed at her leg, trying to pry loose the mirror shard that had fused to her skin. It pulsed once, twice, then sank into her ankle like quicksilver. Her scream was short and sharp, and then she stopped. Her eyes went wide and still. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd died. But then she smiled. Not Tessa's smile. Hers. The echo straightened, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "See," she whispered. "We're remembering now. The way back is almost open." She stepped toward me. I backed away until my heel hit something Mara's body. Cold. Unmoving. The air in the room shifted. Slow. Heavy. The candle flames leaned toward the ground, as though pulled by some invisible gravity. The boards beneath me began to sink, the wood stretching downward like tar. I tried to run, but my foot stuck fast. The floor wasn't wood anymore, it was a mirror. I could see my reflection beneath me, staring up with wide eyes and a mouth slightly open, mouthing words I couldn't hear. The echo knelt, her face inches from mine. "You've always belonged here," she murmured. "Agnes brought you once before. You just forgot." My reflection beneath the surface began to move differently than me, lifting a hand when I didn't, pressing its palm against the underside of the glass. Then, to my horror, it smiled. The echo's hand rested on the top of my head. "One breath," she whispered. "That's all it takes to trade places." The reflection's lips moved in perfect sync with hers. "Breathe in." I did, and the world flipped. The cold rushed through me like drowning. I tried to scream, but no sound came, only my reflection's laughter, echoing from somewhere above, on the other side. When I opened my eyes, the world was upside down, or maybe I was. The air shimmered, thick as syrup, tinted silver. I was standing, or floating, in a dim copy of the mirror room, everything reversed, the furniture warped, the walls breathing softly, the light humming instead of shining. My voice barely made a sound. Where am I? The echo's laughter rippled around me, muffled and distant, as though coming from behind several layers of glass. Through the wavering air, I saw her, me, standing in the real world, brushing dust off her hands. She looked around the ruined room, then smiled faintly. Mara's body was gone. Tessa, no, the thing wearing her, stood beside her, whispering something that made my double's grin widen. I banged my fists against the invisible barrier. Mara, Tessa, it's not me. That thing isn't. But my voice stopped halfway through the sentence. It didn't cross the glass. It folded back on itself, echoing in my ears as a whisper. Not me. The shadows here were alive, slow-moving figures, sliding along the floor like stains. Faces flickered in and out of their forms, half familiar, half forgotten. I recognized one of them. Agnes Wren, the woman from the diary. Her eyes met mine, hollow and endless. You shouldn't have answered, she whispered. Her voice came from inside my head. Every mirror remembers the first face it sees. The house just needed yours again. I spun around, searching for an exit. Every direction looked the same, stretching corridors of cracked silver and rippling glass. The floor under me quivered like the surface of a lake. Then a voice, my voice from above. Don't worry, said the echo. You'll get used to it here. Her hand pressed against the mirror, her palm aligning perfectly with mine on the other side. And then I realized she wasn't alone. Behind her, the other reflections were starting to move, crowding close to the surface. All of them wearing my face, AT first. The reflections only watched me, hundreds of pale Ellies crowding behind the wavering glass, their eyes glassy and unreadable. Then one of them blinked out of sync. Another tilted her head the wrong way. A third opened her mouth and began to whisper. The sound came from everywhere at once, my own voice, multiplied and warped. Ellie, Ellie, do you remember what you left behind? I stumbled backward, clutching my ears. The ground beneath me rippled, and the silver floor showed flickering scenes instead of reflections, snatches of my life, my college dorm, late nights with Mara and Tessa, that stupid road trip to the coast. All of it replaying like home movies trapped in static. Agnes's ghostly form appeared beside me again, her outline flickering. They're not memories, she said softly. They're anchors. They keep you bound. If you want to leave, you have to let go. Let go of what? I asked. She looked at me, pity in her eyes. Yourself. Before I could answer, the glass above me shattered inward. Through the rain of shards stepped the echo, my double, still wearing my face but now streaked with black veins, like cracks in porcelain. She reached for me, her fingers bending in unnatural ways. I thought you'd be happier here, she said sweetly. There's no time here. No loss. Just reflection. I backed away, but her shadow fell across me, stretching long and dark. The mirror world responded, its surface rippling with every step she took, as if welcoming her home. Then, behind her, one of the other reflections broke from the wall, a distorted Ellie with hollow eyes and no mouth. It rushed forward and grabbed the echo's arm, pulling her back. The two of them struggled silently, like puppets fighting for the same string. Agnes whispered urgently beside me, while she's distracted, find your true reflection. The one that moves with you. It's your only way out. I spun, scanning the endless glass, hundreds of faces staring back. Only one blinked when I did. I ran toward it. The echo's voice screamed behind me, distant and furious. Don't you dare leave me again. I sprinted toward the single mirror that moved when I did, its surface rippling like moonlight on water. My footsteps made no sound in this place. Even my heartbeat seemed to echo from somewhere else. Behind me, the air was alive with struggle, glass cracking, reflections shrieking in broken harmony. The echo, my double, was fighting off the other versions clawing at her arms, her face warping, stretching, splitting into too many expressions at once. Ellie, she screamed. You don't understand, you are me. Her voice tore through the space like a siren. Every mirror trembled. Every reflection turned toward me. But I didn't stop. Agnes's words pulsed in my head. Find the one that moves with you. The correct reflection looked scared, just as I felt. Its eyes weren't flat or silver. They were alive, desperate. Me as I was. Me as I wanted to be again. I reached out.
My paw met the glass.
Cold.
Smooth.
Unyielding. Please, I whispered. Let me go home. The reflection mirrored me perfectly. Then it smiled. Not wrong, not too wide. Just mine. A shudder ran through the world. The walls began to collapse inward, the other faces melting, screaming without sound. The echo's voice rose above them all, ragged and furious. You think leaving fixes it? She shrieked. You think the mirror will forget you? She lunged toward me just as my reflection's fingers broke through the glass, grabbing my wrist. The sensation was both burning and freezing. Agnes's voice was fading now, carried by the crumbling air. Choose quickly. If she touches you before you cross, you'll trade places forever. The echo was inches away, her eyes wild. You are the reflection, she hissed. You just forgot which side you came from. I shut my eyes. And jumped. For one endless second, everything was white. Then, I fell through the sound of breaking glass. I hit the floor hard, real, solid wooden floor. For a moment, all I could do was gasp. The air here was heavy but warm, not shimmering silver, but thick with dust and candle smoke. I was back. The mirror room looked wrecked. The candles had burned down to stubs, leaving trails of wax like tiny bones. The chalk circle was mostly gone, smeared footprints everywhere. Mara's body was still there, pale and unmoving. Tessa lay beside her, breathing shallowly, her skin grayish as ash. And me, my reflection, my echo, was gone. Or so I thought. Then came a whisper, faint but sharp as a splinter. You left me behind. The mirrors around the room began to hum again, softer this time, like distant wind through broken glass. I turned slowly, dread crawling at my throat. In one of the remaining shards, half buried under a fallen chair, I saw her. My reflection, staring up at me from inside the sliver of glass. Her hand pressed against the inside, palm to palm with mine. But this time she looked afraid. Ellie, she whispered, voice trembling.
Please.
Don't leave me here. It's cold. I jerked my hand back, stumbling away.
No.
No, I did it, I'm out. You're not real. You're not me. The shard rattled violently, the reflection's mouth twisting open in silent rage. We are never one without the other. The other shards joined in, each reflection blinking awake, dozens of tiny faces turning toward me, whispering my name in tones that didn't sound human anymore. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. Stop it. Then a sudden, sharp crack. The shard split neatly in two. The whispering stopped. Silence. Real, heavy silence. I looked up at the only unbroken mirror left in the room. For the first time in what felt like forever, it showed just me. I laughed shakily, half crazed with relief. It's over. And that's when my reflection smiled first. First, I thought I'd imagined it. The reflection's grin was so faint, just a quiver at the corner of the mouth, there and gone. But the longer I stared, the clearer it became. That wasn't my smile. I leaned closer to the mirror, my breath fogging the glass. My face on the other side didn't mirror me anymore. It was a half beat behind, lagging like a puppet waiting for its cue. Stop, I whispered. Just stop. The reflection tilted its head, studying me with that too familiar curiosity. Then, softly, she mouthed the same word back. Stop. Only my voice didn't echo. Hers did. A hairline crack formed down the center of the glass. The sound was small, almost polite, like a sigh. Behind it, I could see shapes moving again, faint silhouettes of all the other me's I'd left behind, crowding just beyond the surface. They weren't screaming anymore. They were smiling. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me. I fumbled it out, one bar of signal at last. A new message blinked across the screen.
From Mara.
You made it out, right? I froze. Slowly, I looked down at Mara's body on the floor. The phone buzzed again. Ellie, don't look in the mirror. The crack widened. My reflection raised its hand in slow motion, pressing its palm against the inside of the glass. A second later, I felt something cold and smooth against my cheek, from the inside out. I screamed and stumbled backward, the mirror trembling on its hook. It didn't shatter. It only steadied, its surface smoothing over like water. The reflection smiled once more. A perfect, calm, final smile. Then the lights in the room went out. When they came back on, there was only one Ellie in the mirror. And she wasn't the one standing in front of it.